We have several headlines I want to share with you. According to U.S. Central Command, at approximately 11:50 last night Yemen time, U.S. Central Command forces alongside UK armed forces and with support from Australia, Bahrain, Canada, Denmark, the Netherlands, and New Zealand, they conducted strikes against 18 Houthi targets in Iranian-backed Houthi terrorist-controlled areas of Yemen. Now, these strikes from this multilateral coalition targeted areas used by the Houthis to attack international merchant vessels and naval ships in the region. Illegal Houthi attacks have disrupted humanitarian aid bound for Yemen, harmed Middle Eastern economies, and caused environmental damage. Joining us live now to further explain is senior lecturer in criminal justice and homeland security at the University of New Haven, Mr. Ken Gray. Good morning to you. We always appreciate you joining us here on Live Now from Fox.
Good morning and good to see you again, Janae.
Nice to see you as always, Mr. Ken. So recently, these 18 targeted attacks, obviously in retaliation. Can you explain what brings us to this point, please?
Sure. So since November of last year, the Houthis have conducted 45 attacks on global shipping. This is not just an attack on the U.S., not just an attack on Israel. This is an attack on the global economy. Consequently, because of this continued harassment of global shipping and its impact financially, this is not just the United States and the UK conducting this attack. This is a coalition of forces that have come together to try to put an end to the Houthis' ability to conduct these attacks. They conducted attacks against 8 different sites, striking out against 18 targets at those 8 sites, including underground weapons facilities, missile storage facilities, radar installations, everything, including a helicopter. So this was indeed another punishing round against the Houthis' capabilities. However, despite the efforts before, the Houthis continue to be able to launch attacks. So we will see how effective this strike was against the Houthis' capability of disrupting commercial shipping.
These illegal strikes launched by the Houthis, we know several effects from it, and we know one of those is humanitarian aid to be sent to Yemen. Explain the implications of this, Mr. Ken, because obviously several areas in the Middle East are needing humanitarian aid, including basic food and water.
So, the humanitarian aid in the Gaza Strip is now at beyond a critical level. That because of the ongoing attacks there by the IDF against Hamas, food aid has reduced down to nothing going into the Gaza Strip. And because of the identified role of the UNRWA, with some of their members taking part in the October 7th attack, really that entire organization is on the verge of collapse there for its activities in Israel. But it's not just the Gaza Strip that this is impacting on. If you are not able to conduct commercial shipping, you can't get goods into this entire region. That includes places like Yemen. That includes countries on the west side of the Red Sea also. So in actuality, the Houthis have reduced this area, making it almost impossible to conduct commercial shipping, to include into Yemen itself.
I'm glad you said that. That leads me to my second point of how these illegal Houthi attacks are harming Middle Eastern economies, specifically trade. Break that down for us, and could that have further implications with trade with the U.S.?
Absolutely. So the Red Sea is the route, and the Suez Canal is the route in which a lot of goods go from the Far East to Europe and elsewhere. And so when you reduce that capability, or when you actually stop that capability, as the Houthis have been doing, then all that trade has to go all the way around the tip of Africa to come back around. That additional trip takes weeks and an additional month. It takes an additional month and adds on a long route that increases the cost of that kind of shipping. Not only does it affect trade going that way, it also affects the shipment of oil going towards China. And so this has impact on the world's economy. It makes it difficult for China to ship its goods to to Europe and to the U.S. It makes it difficult for oil to get shipped to China. It makes it difficult for the world economy. And what it actually does is it will impact the cost of goods. So we will see a follow-on knock-on effect on the cost of goods caused by the Houthi attacks. This is not just something confined to Israel. This is something that is going to affect the global economy.
I can only imagine how it will in further months. And as these strikes happen, Mr. King, we see it happen. We see the plumes of smoke in the sky, further adding to the already evident environmental damage that we are experiencing across the globe. But could you further break that down, the environmental damage of these strikes that are happening, it seems, week after week after week?
So, of course, when you have continued operations like this in the area, you're going to have the impact of fires and such from there. That's going to be putting up a lot of clouds. Whether or not it has any long-term effect is unclear. But nonetheless, this is going to continue to affect the global economy. And so this is something that it would be best if the Houthis were to cease their operations, but they want to be part of this ongoing conflict there in the Gaza Strip. And this is how they are making their impact felt, is by not only the strikes in the Red Sea, but also in the Gulf of Aden there. So the Houthis are having a far greater impact. Their reach is far greater than just the immediate area around Yemen.
Is it realistic to think that peace is on the horizon for this conflict?
So there was some progress made in talks in Paris here over the last couple of days. They are the details are starting to come out. They're talking about a potential 6-week ceasefire. The exchange for Palestinian prisoners for the hostages. The Hamas has reduced the numbers that they are insisting on. We're talking about the ability of aid getting into the area. Another sticking point is that of IDF attacks against the civilian police force that is operated by Hamas. But inside the Gaza Strip, they want the IDF to stop targeting their police force, because that police force accompanies aid into the area. But those same forces have attacked IDF members, and so that's a sticking point. Some of these details, it was something that needed to be signed off on by both sides. We will see whether or not some of this aspect is for just domestic political consumption there in Israel, and is not really something that they plan to follow through with. Another big detail is who is going to be running the area after the war, the post-war government there. And it sounds to me like one of the provisions is that for the Gaza Strip to be put under the control of civilians who are not connected with Hamas in Gaza, but that the IDF will maintain a presence there, and where they are actually able to be at will be limited. These are early details. We have yet to see the final form of this, but it certainly sounds like it might be a possibility to get us there. A ceasefire would be the first step towards a conclusion of this operations in this area. But Israel has not achieved their goal of wiping Hamas out. So one or the other will have to give. That is, either Israel will have to settle for something less, or there will have to be a change in this plan. But this is against the backdrop that Hamas is now, through their Ministry of Health, says that the death toll has reached 29,600 plus deaths there in the Gaza Strip. So this is indeed bordering on a genocide. It really is a huge number of people that are dying, not only combatants but non-combatants, and it would be a good thing for this to come to a conclusion sooner rather than later.
Right, and that's evident with what's going on with the International Court of Justice with South Africa and other representatives saying that they feel that this is a genocide that is currently taking place. I want to ask you, Mr. Ken, as you were discussing the ceasefire, I want to kind of put things into perspective for the viewers. If a ceasefire was to happen in this area, would it be a ceasefire specifically for the Israel-Hamas war, or also a ceasefire for these illegal Houthi attacks? So many different conflicts going on, it can get confusing.
So the negotiation that is going on right now, that is being brokered by the Qataris, by the Egyptians, it's taking place there in Paris. This is strictly about the Gaza Strip, about the actions between the IDF, Israel, and Hamas. It does not include negotiations about other activities by the axis of resistance, Iran-backed groups in Syria, in Lebanon, in Iraq, and now also with the Houthis. However, if the war were to cease inside the Gaza Strip, there's a good likelihood that the activities by the Houthis would cease, that the activities there in the other areas by the Syrians, by the Iraqis, by the Hezbollah may cease also. Although we have seen a real increase in the exchange between Israel and Hezbollah here in the last couple of weeks. But nonetheless, a cessation of hostilities there in the Gaza Strip may have impact on all these other areas.
Mr. Ken, you know, I always appreciate your expertise and dialogue. Thank you so much for waking up with us here on Live Now from Fox. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that the next couple of days, it'll be very interesting to see whether or not they actually are able to come to an agreement. As I say, this would be a good thing if it does. This is going against the backdrop that Ramadan starts on the 10th of March. And so I think that with this looming Islamic holiday coming up, a religious recognition there, that this is something that they want to try to get in place by Ramadan. So that'll give us a window. Hopefully we will see movement on this.
We'll definitely be watching to see how everything unfolds. Thank you again, Mr. Ken, for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. You enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.